Welcome back to watching Business Morning. To our next conversation now, MSMEs are the backbone of any economy, and in terms of sustainable growth, employment generation, increasing trade, development of entrepreneurial skills, and contribution to export earnings. A report by the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria shows the number of micro, small, and medium enterprises across the country dropped by about 2 million between 2017 and 2021. Well, that's our conversation today. We'll join us. We'll have Mr. Monday Alu Aarons, Director, Enterprises Development and Promotion Department of Sweden, right there. Join us from Abuja via Zoom. Great to have you on the program. Good morning. And we also have Chukwuemeka Kelvin Idam, CEO Zen Ideas and Sustainability Advocate, join us right here in the studio. Great to have you, Chukwuemeka.
Thanks, Ladi. Thanks for having me.
So I'll start with you, Mr. Monday Evans, right there. Well, 2 million MSMEs, that's quite a big drop, in 4 years. What do you think drove this, and should we be worried at this point?
Thank you so much, Ladi. I'm happy to be in this program this morning. MSMEs are very key to development efforts in this country. They contribute to job creation, wealth creation, and poverty alleviation. Of course, SMEDAN as an agency has been partnering with the National Bureau of Statistics to reel out these statistics for MSMEs in this country. In 2010, it was about 17 million. In 2013, it was about 34 million. In 2017, it was about 41.6 million. And then recently, as at 31st December 2020, it came down to 39.6 million, which is about 4.5% drop in the figure of 2017. Of course, the issues concerning the drop is very, very clear, because within this period between 2017 and 2020, there was this major outbreak, the COVID-19 issue. It affected businesses across the world, especially in Nigeria, because most of the businesses dealing with contact persons, physical markets, and so on and so forth. So when the COVID-19 came on board, there were lockdown, there were insecurity, there were banditry, terrorism, and the rest and the rest. So this affected some of these businesses. Some of them closed their shops. Some of them lost turnover, they lost markets, and so on and so forth. So mainly issue related to COVID-19, terrorism, insecurity really affected the lives of these small businesses, and most of them had to close down because of this issue. So that was why there was that drop of about 2 million, from 41.6 million to 39.6 million, which is about a 4.5% drop. Thank you so much.
Quite a drop there. But let me come to you now, Chukwuemeka. You're a business owner, and you play in most sectors there. But what for you are the priority areas, of support that you think should be looked into for MSMEs at this point?
Okay, thank you, Ladi. The key areas I would say off the top of my head are like power. Power is very important and it's very key. You need power for everything. You need power to produce, you need power to manufacture, even to generally sustain business operations. As you're aware, post-pandemic, most businesses have moved virtually, so you even need power to sustain that as well. Another key resource would be access to finance. This is very key because currently the traditional finance instruments available offer double-digit interest rates. This is very prohibitive, very expensive for MSMEs to afford. I myself, as a business owner, I find it difficult to access such finances. And right now we're expanding and we're doing a round, and I've seen that we've had a lot of issues around finance. So trust me, a lot of businesses will struggle around this and end up having to either offer subpar services or having to close shop. So these are the two key resources I would highlight as issues
of support. All right, I'll come to you now, Mr. Evans. So at the end of the day, funding is a big issue for MSMEs. What kind of conversations are you having, regarding, making funding easier and accessible?
Of course, thank you so much. I would agree that access to finance, affordable finance, is key to business operations of small businesses. But from our own perspective, funding is not the only issue. Because if you have funding finance, if you don't have the skills to manage that funding, the finance will fritter away. And then even if you have funding and you have skills to manage it, and if you don't have a guaranteed offtake arrangement that has access to markets, you've also wasted your time. You won't achieve what you want to achieve. But it is essential that if you must have that finance, you should have the skills, you should have the markets, and of course, the enabling environment is also key, which includes what my brother talked about, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So for finance, yes, it is key. But most importantly, when an average MSME is talking about finance, we also talk about character, because there are sources of finance from the banks, from the development banks, from even government intervention, and so on and so forth. But we're talking about character. Do the average small business person have the character to manage the funding the way it's supposed to be managed? Do they have the character to pay back this money when it comes to them? Do they have the money do they have the character to put the money into the business and grow it as per their business plan, as per their business model, to achieve what they need to achieve? Yes, money is key, but we need to make sure that the money the small business person gets is applied into the business, else the objectives will not be achieved. And of course, the government has been trying its best to support small businesses with finance. Of course, overall, when we talk about there's a finance gap for small businesses. But whatever happens, access to finance is key, and government is trying to do what they can at this moment to provide this finance. And then for the COVID issue, the government tried to support small businesses through the COVID issue by instituting what they call the National Economic Sustainability Plan, which includes reassessing the loans taken by small businesses already, reducing the interest rate paid by small businesses in there for the finance they already have, supporting small businesses with payment of salaries, and of course, instituting a guaranteed offtake system for their products. Of course, these things may not be enough, but if you look at the results of the government intervention, and even from Smedan's perspective, we saw that within these four years, between 2017 and 2020, there was also an increase in employment, which means those support that the government is doing also supported the existing businesses to increase the number of people that are employed. For instance, it grew from about 59 million to about 62 million, which shows that there was some impact on the intervention of government. So access to finance should be managed the way it's supposed to be managed, and then complemented with issues to capacity building and the markets and so on and so forth. Thank you.
All right, so I guess the MSMEs have a responsibility to be responsible with, funding that they actually get. But let me come to you now, Mr. Adam. Right now we're seeing rising prices, rising energy prices, inputs costs are going up, overhead costs are going up at this point. And, I'm wondering, how are you able to pass on some of this increases to your customers?
Thanks, Ladi. So yes, we're very careful with that. We don't just change our prices automatically to meet the rising cost like you just described. But we're finding sustainable ways to grow our business, and so we're trying to be as innovative around solutions as possible. One of such ways is we've kind of like to adapt to like the post-pandemic era of virtual reality. So we don't all just have to operate like a physical showroom space. We've adapted to now deliver most of our solutions virtually as well. So like I said, we'll find ways around it. And then at some point when like the cost of power, we can't do anything about it, then maybe we'll pass some of that buck to the consumer.
Right, but what alternatives, are you finding at this point? Because obviously everything is up, but are there alternatives readily available to help support your business?
Alternatives like in terms of power generation?
Exactly.
So we alternate the use of generators like diesel, petrol, that kind of solution. Or sometimes, like I said, we go away from using physical spaces to virtual spaces. That cuts a lot of cost in terms of like rent, in terms of like the funding that it takes to set up the showroom space and keep like actual products. because I run a furniture manufacturing company. Yes.
Quite interesting,
Yeah.
because that also requires a lot of energy
Yeah.
use, for
Yes, it does.
production of furniture. But Mr. Evans, I'll come to you now. I know Sweden is doing a lot, to support most of these MSMEs. But as an organization, what do you need right now to enhance, performance, in supporting MSMEs in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, SMEDAN is the apex government agency for supporting small businesses in Nigeria. And of course, it's just the apex agency in more than 200 million people. You can imagine the enormity of the responsibility and the assignment. Of course, as an agency of government, we have our own challenges. For instance, for us to go through the 36 states and FCT, we need a lot of support, a lot of money. And of course, as of now, the agency depends on the national budget for survival and doing what we need to do. So first of all, we need to have adequate budgetary provision to be able to go through the 36 states and FCT to be able to impact people the way that they're supposed to be impacted. But we're talking about skills. How do we train people? There's a cost for training across the 36 states and FCT. We need a lot of money. Of course, we don't do it alone because we place so much premium on partnerships and collaboration. So we do it with other public institutions and credible private sector institutions. So we need to support, we need to fund the training, for instance. We need to fund business development service. We need to fund empowerment schemes like supporting small businesses with equipment, supporting small businesses with finance, supporting small businesses with a framework for access to market. So one of the key issues here is increasing our financial muscle to be able to attend to what we need to attend. Of course, apart from that, we also need skills both in-house and outside. So we also need to have a capacity to be training our staff, giving them the skill to be able to deliver services, quality services to small businesses. So a major, the other issues involved, but mainly we need to, the government needs to support us to the extent that we're able to enter and do what we're supposed to do within the 36 states and FCT, because it requires a lot of funding, it requires a lot of expertise and technical ability to achieve what we need to achieve. Thank you.
All right, but Mr. Edwards, what can we expect from SMEDAN going forward in 2022?
Okay, as usual, on a yearly basis, we do support small businesses with a lot of our programs, a lot of projects, and so on and so forth, because that's the only way we can deliver our mandate, deliver our services to small businesses. For instance, one of the programs we run is called One Local Government, One Product Program, which is targeted at making sure that organic clusters in each of the 774 local governments are organized specially, making sure that they have access to equipment, will have access to workspace, have access to finance, have access to all the resources that made them grow. Of course, we've been doing that. As of now, we have done over 500 local governments. So within this year, we're going to complete the 774 local governments to make sure that at that level, local government level, there are organic clusters that support the growth of small businesses, support our effort at job creation, and so on and so forth. There's also one we call the conditional grant scheme for micro enterprises. This is targeted at making sure that we support small businesses with formalization. We support them with capacity building. We support them with grants, 50,000 naira each for each of the enterprises. We support them with micro insurance and also support with BDS. Of course, we have done that in over 20 states right now, and we're going forward. And of course, the most important thing is that we also do what we call the National Business Skill Development Initiative, which is also an initiative that supports small businesses with entrepreneurship training, with vocational training, and empowerment with equipment. We did that last year in the 36 states and FCT, and we target such skills like leather works, like GSM repairs, like fashion, like photography, and so on and so forth. Once these MSMEs are trained, both entrepreneurship and vocational training, they are given the equipment to support these skill areas and make sure that they're able to do what they're supposed to do, to increase their turnover, increase their capacity, be able to create those jobs that are supposed to be created. And of course, we have other programs that will run on a yearly basis to support small businesses. So, but
right.
time might not permit me to go
All
through
right.
them right now.
Okay, Mr. Evans, thank you so much for that. But I'll come to you now, Mr. Idam. Well, quite a number of programs there, to support MSMEs that Mr. Evans reeled out there. But for you, what kind of support would you really want to see, from the government, coupled with what he just said?
Okay, first of all, I just want to say that, it was interesting listening to that. There's a lot of information that is not really out there. And so I think kudos to Smith and everything they're doing, but I think there's a lot of work still needs to be done in terms of information. If you give an entrepreneur everything he needs, there will be more productivity in the environment. You have more jobs and more wealth creation. So I think, yes, asking for character and asking for all those other things are very key, but funding is also very key as well. To answer your question, what I want the government to do, I want the government, the government has done quite a lot, even in terms of the recently signed Finance Act. So that gives some tax exemption, small or medium companies with a turnover below 25 million and, all of that. So the government has done something, but there's still so much more to do in terms of security, basic security, power infrastructure, just basic infrastructure, really, just to make an enabling environment for entrepreneurs and SMEs to be able to thrive and, look forward to doing business here in this country.
Quite interesting. And, obviously the business owners have had, a lot of headwinds from the pandemic. Now we have, now with this war in Ukraine. But what did you learn from the pandemic?
I think for us at Zen Ideas, the pandemic taught us adaptability, right? Because we had to evolve to meet our customers' evolving needs, right? So, like I just highlighted initially, we were just about to sign a long lease on a physical showroom, and if we had done that, that would have been a disaster, because we'd have spent so much money on that, and everybody was in a lockdown. But we had to grow, to evolve, to meet their needs virtually, and in doing that, we were able to increase our numbers, and we were able to increase our customers as well.
Right, quite interesting, and quite interesting times, in the world for employers, for employees, and the government as well. And we all have to work together to make this work.
Absolutely.
At some point. I want to thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Chukwuemeka Idam, CEO Zen Ideas Sustainability Advocate. And also thank you, Mr. Monday Evans, for coming on the show, Director Enterprise and Development Promotion at SMEs. It was great having you both on the program today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ladi. Thank you for having us.
All right, now, so we'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll drill down on the markets. Do stay with us. This is Business Talk.